Did you ever want to peek inside somebody's pantry, find out what they really eat in a day? Did you ever want to peek inside my pantry to see if there are any surprises? For instance, I eat chocolate almost every day, but not just any chocolate. So today I want to talk about my diet. And by diet, I don't mean a regime of deprivation to try to lose weight. I mean the way that I eat to try to be healthy. So we're gonna poke around my kitchen, nose around my cupboards, my freezer. I'll take you into places that you've never been before. In that same spirit of pulling back the veil, I wanted to let you know that I am going to be doing an Ask Me Anything video. I want you, oh, sorry. It's raining out there, possibly even snowing. I want you guys to leave your questions for me in the comments below after you watch this video. You can ask me anything. You can ask me anything as personal as you want to go. Doesn't mean I'm gonna answer it, but let's keep it fun, let's keep it clean, and I'll try to answer as many as possible in that video. But right now, I want to start by kind of framing my diet with the sort of 5 principles that I follow. First one, eat as many whole foods as you can and as few processed foods as you can. 2, when you do eat processed foods, the ingredient list should be short and full of recognizable ingredients. 3, eat homemade foods as much as possible. 4, treats are allowed, but when you eat those treats, make sure they fit into the rules that I just said. Homemade, or if they're processed, a short, recognizable ingredient list. And 5, eat mostly vegetarian. On an average week for me, that can range from 60% to 85% of my family's diet. Now, I want to dive into concrete foods, and I want to start with the staples of what my family eats. The big culprit of processed food here in America is breakfast. We are a country of cereal eaters. Cereal is one of the most highly processed foods that you can eat. It has very little nutrition, especially the cereals that kids like to eat. So, in my household, we eat homemade granola. That might sound like an exhausting proposition to make your own granola week in and week out. I am here to tell you that it is way easier than you realize. So my staple granola is oats, some kind of nut. This has almonds and pecans, olive oil, honey, and any kind of seasoning. Sometimes I put in cinnamon and cardamom, mix it up. You don't have to do any of the seasonings. You bake it in your oven. It's a very sort of passive way of cooking, and you have a delicious, healthy breakfast where you can modify the amount of sugar, honey, maple syrup, whatever that is, that you put in it, and it is just like a really delicious way to start breakfast and satisfying. Now, does that mean I have no cereal in the house? No. I do keep cereal. I'm not suggesting any brands in this video, by the way, but I have a Cheerio type cereal that are reserved as a kind of treat for maybe like on a Sunday when, my son has, tired of eating granola and anything else during the week. Yes, he will have some cereal, but on like an average school day, I want him eating something like this because it's much more sustaining for him through the day. Now, we also keep in our freezer sourdough waffles. So most of you will know that I have a sourdough practice. And when you do make sourdough bread, you have something called a discard. When you feed your sourdough starter, you have a portion that gets thrown away. I never throw away my discard. I make certain things that I keep all the time, and waffles is one of them. Into the freezer. So I grew up with something called like Eggos or something. There were these freezer waffles. Instead, I make my own waffles. These actually happen to be chocolate waffles. They don't have chocolate chips in them. They have cocoa powder, which is really good for you. It's it's sugar-free. I throw in some of my freshly milled whole wheat. Like I said, I make a huge batch and I put it in the freezer. We pop them in the toaster just like the processed ones you buy at the store. And that's another option for breakfast. By the way, I have a video on the channel right now, a sourdough waffle recipe video. So you too can make these yourself. Go look for that. And if you want me to make a granola recipe video, let me know in the comments below. I'm going to grab something else. So this is our bread. This is my sourdough bread. Once a week, or maybe every 2 weeks, depending on how big a batch I do, I make a load of sourdough bread. I slice it up. I don't know if you can tell, these are pre-sliced. And I put them in the same bags I use over and over again. And I put them in the freezer. Now, actually, one thing I hear quite a lot from people is, Nicole, how do you stay so fit when you eat so much bread? Because they see my videos, they see how much bread I make. The truth is, I do eat at least 1 or 2 slices of sourdough bread every day. I am not afraid of carbs. You should not be afraid of carbs. They are necessary building blocks for our health, and it all comes down to the quality of those carbohydrates, right? So for a lot of my sourdough bread, I am buying the whole wheat berries and I am milling them myself. So I'm getting all of the good stuff that is often stripped away when white flour, for instance, is made, because it is packed full of great nutrition, including protein. Along with cereal, bread is another highly processed food that we eat in this country. Even whole wheat bread, even what you think is often the best kind of bread that you can purchase for your family, I want you to take a look at that ingredient list. Just think about the way that processed bread is made. It is pumped out at a furious rate. They don't have time to do slow rises. It takes, hours for this bread to rise. Am I actively doing something while the bread is rising? I'm doing other things, right? So fitting in a routine of making sourdough bread doesn't mean that I am slaving over the counter with this bread for an entire day. It is an entire day's worth of process, but it's a stop and starting kind of process. I will say right now, as a kind of caveat to everything that I'm recommending, especially making homemade foods, I understand that not everybody has the time to do this. But I will say, I am a working mom. I have my own company. I kind of work nonstop, but I do have the luxury of flexibility. I can make my own hours, right? So I can work, I work from home, I can bop into the kitchen, do a fold of my bread, go back to my desk and keep working. So I do have that flexibility. But I do work a lot, and I have figured out ways to make as many homemade foods as I can. I have some tips and tricks that are coming up that will help you too, and a lot has to do with making big batches of things and putting them in the freezer. Okay, on to the next thing. Let's talk about treats, right? So I mentioned earlier that treats are totally allowed. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that I probably eat chocolate almost every single day. Let me show you what kind of chocolate. So here. There is a certain store that is probably local to you that sells big bars of dark chocolate from Belgium. The midstream chocolate that is produced here in America, I find to be very sugary, and I can literally feel my body sort of, if I eat that kind of chocolate, kind of get all like crazy. I can like feel that sugar rush. Whereas a really good dark chocolate does not do that to me. Just, gives me the sweetness that I'm looking for at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon when I want like a little something something. So I get these big bars and I break it up. One is one has almonds and one is plain, and I have, you know, a good sized square or two, right? And I keep it in Talenti, so yes, I eat ice cream as well. I reuse these jars and I keep chocolate that way. Also, I make my own cookies. So I will keep a big tin of often like an oatmeal chocolate chip cookie, something like that. I am married to a Brit. Bickies are like a thing. He needs to have his Bicky and his tea, and fair enough. But I can control what goes into those cookies. I can adjust the sugar, because like 9 times out of 10, I'll make a recipe that I found, and it doesn't need to be that sugary. It's like way too sugary. And I will tone down the sugar. But then I can like cram in great whole ingredients, whole oats, some of that freshly milled whole wheat, things like that. At least I can control the quality of the ingredients going in. Now I should mention that I have a son who's in 2nd grade, and in his school they have snack time, and there are stipulations for that snack. It has to be a dry snack because I eat it in the classroom, and it has to be nut-free, right? So that has been, you know, challenging. I will send him with mandarins, right? Something that he can eat out of hand pretty easily. You know, yes, a lot of times I am sending him with something that I am getting from out of a box. But like I said, I am really specific about those processed foods. So this is like a 3-seed sweet potato cracker, right? And the ingredient list has maybe 4 things: corn, sunflower oil, sweet potato, flax seeds, and sesame seeds. That's it. I recognize these ingredients. I'm comfortable with these ingredients. I feel okay about sending my child to school with this kind of snack. When he's home, the snacks that he generally gets is fruit. He eats all kinds of fruit, cut up raw vegetables, cucumber, carrots, bell pepper. We really raised him to not crave chocolate and candy. To him, those are real treats. I literally have a small bag of Halloween candy he came home from school with, and it's still in there. He really does forget about the treats because it's not been a habit of him to have those things, so he doesn't expect them. And it really is just developing a habit of good eating. Okay, let's quickly clean this up with a little video magic. Okay, so I want to now segue to some real concrete tips for making homemade meals. So replacing some of those, you know, like processed meals that you might bring home and bung in your freezer. I'm gonna give you some alternatives to those that you can make big batches of and keep in your freezer, and those are your meals ready to go. So, big thing that will transform your diet is to increase the amount of pulses or legumes in your diet. So, lentils, and these are pinto beans. I keep a stash of dried beans and lentils at all times. They are like magic. They are sustaining, satiating, they fill you up so easily. If you cook them in this very simple way I'm gonna give you, they're so delicious. They are full of protein and they are affordable. I'm gonna make a whole video dedicated to beans because they are really like the future of food. But right now, I'm going to tell you about 2 quick things that I do with lentils and beans. With lentils, I make a pot of lentil soup that is so simple, but so delicious. My son is always excited when I'm having it. I actually use a recipe that is a Persian recipe from my mother-in-law, but there's no sort of exotic ingredients in it. It's literally lentils, onion, salt and pepper, and water or broth. If you have vegetable broth, chicken broth, whatever it is, cook the lentils in that, and that's it. It literally is a delicious soup. I drizzle like some good extra virgin olive oil on top. I make a big pot of beans. You soak these guys overnight. Lentils you don't have to soak overnight. Beans you do. but this is just a lot of passive cooking. And by that, I mean you're not actively like tied down to the kitchen to make these foods. So soak 2 cups of beans overnight in a big pot of water. The next day, drain them. In that same pot, you saute some onion, some garlic if you like it. Put in your like aromatics like rosemary and thyme, a big bay leaf. Add the beans, and then whatever liquid you have. Again, it can be water, it can be vegetable stock, it can be chicken broth, whatever you have. Simmer it for, it'll take maybe a couple of hours. But again, you're not slaving over the stove. It is cooking in the background. Do it while you're eating dinner or whatever. And then you have like the most delicious meal. You can put it over rice and have rice and beans. I often eat them just out of the, just as is, with maybe some like sauteed like greens, like broccoli rabe or whatever, and put half of that into the freezer. And you always, rice and beans, right away have a delicious sustaining meal. It's another meal that my son particularly loves. Again, I know kids are like picky eaters, but that is a winner. So lentils, beans, try it out. Okay. Next thing I want to talk about, getting more whole vegetables in your life. Pretty much any vegetable you can think of. Broccoli, cauliflower, carrots, fennel, peppers can be roasted in your oven with a drizzle of olive oil, salt, and pepper. Any vegetable roasted in the oven comes out absolutely delicious. And then all you have to do is mix it with a pasta, mix it with rice, whatever is your like favorite sort of starch. And then you have dinner. Another tip I have is just have a small collection of really good condiments, because on a dish as simple as roasted vegetables and pasta, drizzling a good extra virgin olive oil will elevate that dish to another level. If you like hot sauces, have some good hot sauce in there. Just those little ingredients will tie a simple dish together, and there you are getting several servings of vegetables into your diet and a quick meal ready on the table. Again, you're not slaving over the stove. You're putting a tray of vegetables into the oven, maybe stirring them now and again. You're boiling pasta, mixing it all together with some good extra virgin olive oil. You have dinner ready super quick. Now, I'll go to the grocery store, buy a lot of fresh vegetables, and we'll, go through them through the week. And then you get to the end of the week and you don't have very many fresh vegetables left. I always keep big packages of frozen broccoli in the freezer, because that's like the one vegetable that I know my son loves. I want to mention this because some people don't realize that frozen vegetables are just as healthy as fresh vegetables, and sometimes healthier, because they get picked from the field and go right into the flash freezer. So there is very little time that they are degrading in between. Whereas some fresh vegetables, they have a long journey to make, right? They come to the field, they go and get washed, they go into a cooler, and then they have to be shipped across the country, whatever it may be. So don't be afraid of frozen vegetables. I know there are less things that you can do with them because they do inherently have a lot of water and they will go limp. So I wouldn't recommend roasting frozen vegetables, but you can steam them, you can boil them, and do a lot of great things with them too. It's just great to have them as a standby if you are trying to include more whole foods into your diet. Another secret ingredient that can elevate an easy homemade weekday meal, eggs. If you eat eggs, you can take some leftover rice, maybe that you made from another meal, poach a couple of eggs, or do sunny side up, whatever is your jam. Put an egg on top, take some of those leftover roasted vegetables, add them in there, and whatever kind of condiment you love, whether it's like that hot sauce or some kind of kimchi, or maybe a bit of soy sauce. I always keep miso paste in the fridge. A great marinade, or you can even kind of thin it out to make a sauce, is miso paste, honey, and sesame oil. Try that. experiment with the ratio to your tastes. Easy, sort of Asian-inspired condiment to throw over an egg, some vegetables, and some rice. Eggs can be turned into zucchini pancakes. I have that recipe video on my channel. Okay guys, that was probably a lot to throw at you at once. If you do have questions, put them in the comments below about this video or anything else, because remember, I'm doing an Ask Me Anything video, my first one ever. So excited to see your questions, so don't forget to put them below. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to hit me up on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. True Food TV is the handle everywhere, and I will see you back here real soon. Bye, lovely people.
Maybe check your levels.
It's back here.
Yeah, okay, you still good.
Snack break.